Hi, this is an example to show how we can use a target task in CodeWarrior 10.2 to selectively control which sectors get erased when we do a debug configuration. And to show this, I'm going to use an example called FlexMem for the Tower K40 card. This demo is designed to show the flex memory in the K40, and the reason I'm going to use this is because this demo initializes E squared and then it writes a counter value that increments periodically. But you'll see when we reload it through the debug configuration that it ends up erasing the E squared in the flex memory and the counter value starts over. So I'll demonstrate that now. I've already downloaded to my board the K40 tower card, and I'm going to run this to a breakpoint that I have in the interrupt routine that increments the counter. If you look at the terminal window, you'll see the very first time it gets to this breakpoint the counter value is 0. So if I run through this a couple of times, it's going to increment the counter value and we're up to 4. And now I'll show how the current debug configuration erases this. So I'm going to terminate my debug session, launch my debugger again, and in the process here it's going to erase the sectors of the flex MVM. And you'll see that the counter value restarts to 0. So now when I run to my breakpoint and look in the terminal, you can see here the value is back to 0. So what happens when we don't want to erase the flex MVM? How do we do that? Well, I'll go ahead and run this a couple times so we'll get the value back up. So now the counter value is at 4. I'll terminate my session, and now we're going to use what's called a target task in CodeWarrior. So the first step is to import the target task into your workspace, and to do that, in the debug perspective, there's a target task view. You can right click on the root group, click import. This will default to the directory here at target task. This is a subdirectory under your CodeWarrior installation directory, so it should default to this one, but if it doesn't, you can find it under the CodeWarrior directory, then MCU, bin, plugins, support, target task. Once in there, go into Flash Programmer, then go into ARM in this case for our Kinetis family, and then find the part number that you're wanting to use. The K40 board uses the K40 DX256Z.xml. I'll open that up. That adds this target task into my workspace. I can double click on this to open it up, and I'll double click on this tab to maximize it so you can see it better. So this is a Flash Programmer task, and right now it's set to by default do a chip erase of the whole chip, and that's what I want to change. So I can double click here on the erase operation, and in this dialog box I can uncheck mass erase all devices. At this point I can now specify the individual sectors that I want erased. You can also see there's two devices internally. There's the P flash or program flash block, and there's the D flash for the data flash block. So I want to set it up to erase all sectors in the P flash, so I'm going to do a shift operation to select all of them, and then I'll click on update erase action. So now my task for erase is to only erase these sectors in the program flash region. The data flash region will not be erased, and also it's already set up that it will not program to the data flash sectors. So that's where I want to leave this. I'll do a Control S to save it, and then it asks me where I want to save it, and you want to save this in your project so that it can be imported when you share this project with someone else. So click on Save to File. This is my project directory location. You just point it to the directory where you want to save it and specify the project in your workspace that you want to save it to, and click OK. And we can go back and look now in the project panel, and we'll see that now there's a .ttf file that's been added to my project. So this is the target task template file. So now I've got my target task template set up. The next thing I need to do is set up my debug configuration to use it. So to do that, edit your debug configurations. I'm going to select the debug configuration for my internal flash build configuration for my project. Go to the debugger tab. on the download tab, it's defaulting right now to perform a standard download. So I'm going to uncheck this, check execute tasks, click the add button, and it's going to find the target tasks in your workspace. I just have this one, so I'll select that and click OK, and then click apply to save this in your debug configuration. Now we'll go ahead and debug. This will use the target task now for the programmer instead of using the standard download. And when this gets done, we'll run it and make sure that the previous counter value in the e-squared is preserved. So here we are. I'll run to my first breakpoint. We look at the terminal, and instead of defaulting to 0, it's now showing that the counter value initialized to 4, which was the last value that we wrote to it. So there the flex NVM in the flex memory is preserved. It wasn't erased this time by using our target task. Thank you.